markets do crash. You realize this, right? I laugh because I get a lot of people emailing me like, "Hey, the pending crash, blah blah blah," and I'm perplexed by this. I'm like, well, okay, so hey, what are you gonna do? B, it's cyclical, i.e., it happens, and then C, though, if you're so focused on the crash, doesn't mean you're not focused on all the massive growth you've got over the last 15 years. I mean, just think about it. Let's just say you started in 2010 with $100,000, all right? And you got doubled your money. So, I mean, you've made, 15% a year would give you a 7, so let's see. No, it'd be 10% a year. That's it. You got 10% a year. That means you doubled your money in 7 years. Yes, there you go. So you started in 2009, it's 2022 now. You started with $100,000, you got 10% a year. That means you doubled your money every 7.2 years. So after 14 years, your $100,000 is worth what? $400,000. That's without adding anything to it. Now let's just go back and say we have a 50% market decline. It goes down by a half. You're still sitting on $200,000, man. I mean, if you're spending money in your head as if you had $400,000, well, it sucks to be you. But if you're spending money in your head as if just your regular day-to-day expenditures, you should be just fine. That's a 50% market crash. And look, anything could happen, man. I mean, my goodness, I'm not telling you that can't happen, but I'm sitting there looking at value stocks, the VTV, and the idea that could fall 50% just seems silly to me. When it didn't even happen in 2008, when the banks were getting hammered left and right. And the feds were saying you can't pay your dividends other than a penny per share so we could keep our preferred shares. And the whole thing was nuts. So if it didn't happen in 2008, what's the likelihood that value stocks, and particularly, fall 50% in 2022? I frankly don't buy it. But Josh, the QE, I was listening to my man Adam Curry and John C. Dvorak on the No Agenda podcast, so I love a lot, actually. And they're just talking about some guy who says, the market crash, you could lose your 401ks, you could lose this. I'm like, I mean, the worst, a 50% crash, which has never happened other than in 1 year in our lifetimes, never happened. And yet in 2008, it didn't fall 50%. The S&P 500 was down 37. From 2001 and 2 all the way to March of 2003, growth stocks are down about 75 to 80%. Yeah, well, growth stocks, if you're all in growth stocks, you're in the world of hurt. You should have been that. I mean, it's just basic common sense. I don't know what to tell you, man. You got greedy. But I am... It's crazy for me to be the optimist because I'm from Maine, for heaven's sake. And I don't trust any of these freaking clowns when it comes to the people's in charge. But I'm just realistic too. I'm like, wait, even if we fell 50 freaking %, you're still up 100% from where you were 14 years ago. And what's the likelihood that your portfolio would fall 50%? It's just not very high. Gosh, the doomsday stuff drives you up the wall because I'm sitting there thinking, common sense, my friends, will tell you at the end of the day, a 30% decline is absolutely run par for the course. No big deal. So again, you start in 2009 with $100,000. You didn't do anything. You didn't take money out. You didn't add money to it. We just put money, we just let it sit there. Now we're at $400,000. From 2009 to, and I bet I'm even discounting what it is. From 2009 to 2022, that's 13 years. If you would have made 10% a year, you would have doubled your money every 7.2 years. So basically you're sitting there, and we did better than 10% for the last 15 years. I mean, you are sitting on a boatload of equity that is, from whatever reason, quantitative easing, the Fed, I don't care. You are sitting on a hell of a lot more money than you started with just 15, 12 years ago. So now the market's fall. You're at $400,000. That's without adding anything to it. You're at 400,000, my friends. I just said typical market fall of 30%. So now you're down 120. So you're at 280. All right. So let's just say you get a 30% decline. You're still at 280. You started with $100,000 in 2009. You grew to 400,000. The market's fallen 30%. You're at 280 right now. I mean, my goodness. It's a perspective, my friends. Some perspective. All right, we'll see. I love your thoughts.